Ladies and gentlemen, we are out here at the T Studio in Brackenfell, Cape Town with a phenomenal setup we'll take you through a bit later. And we are recording the 6th episode of the Far From Par podcast. And the fact that I'm sitting here talking to Ashley Ben and Atish Jogi, two trailblazing fashionistas in their own regard, who are also equally capable golfers, and they're here talking to me about the fashion of golf, is mind-blowing. I think that in itself is a clear statement of where the sport is evolving to. So we're looking at where the industry is in terms of golf fashion, how South Africa fits into that puzzle, and you know who the trailblazers and the trendsetters are within this environment, and also what role fashion or golf attire plays in creating or enabling or creating barriers to entry to the sport of golf. So Ashley and Atish, welcome. Atish,
thank you for having us.
Has come all the way from Johannesburg. I mean, even if you're coming from Cape Town, Brackenfell is quite far from most places.
It's a drive. It's a drive.
So, Ashley, I'm going to start with you talking about the fashion of golf. Tell our viewers, apart from being a very keen golfer, a bit about yourself, you know.
Cool, yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, it's cool to be here. I think we've had many conversations leading up to this. But yeah, I think my background, as you mentioned, is very much like from the world of like streetwear and sneakers always. And so started off at Shelf Life, which was this, we were just chatting now before, like such a culturally like important place for South African streetwear culture. And so, you know, like being fortunate to have come through that environment as a young person who was studying and trying to find their own way was so cool, and I still look back at that time very fondly. And yeah, like I kind of always had this love for like curation and brands and like understanding like culture, just being a student of culture, and so immersing myself in that environment like felt very natural to me. And then I kind of found myself through being able to connect with brands in like a marketing space, and worked for an agency which was a youth engagement agency called And People. We worked on some of the best brands in the world, you know, creating content and campaigns for Africa. So again, like started working with Adidas and Levi's, Spotify, like some really cool brands, and learning a little bit about how I guess marketing and the advertising industry actually worked. Because you know, you don't know, like as a young person growing up, you kind of, you know, we come from DIY culture where you're doing things because it feels natural, but you haven't studied it and you don't know the process. And so yeah, formalizing then what I loved naturally was cool, and was really like another big step forward for me in starting to carve like a niche in this marketing advertising world. And then the agency closed down in COVID, or you know, the directors had kind of taken this decision to go their own way, and so that meant that I was at a crossroads, you know, having worked for like 7 years straight, wanted to take some time off. You know, we were in the middle of a pandemic. It was the perfect time to decompress and do nothing. And then I was approached by Adidas to do some consulting for them in my personal capacity, and really didn't know what that meant, because I had to start a business. Of course, out of necessity. You can't kind of exist as this individual, which is what I thought. And so that was like the next daunting phase of my life, like being able to start my own business, and that kind of takes us to where I am now, as the founder and creative director of Room Studio. And we are at the moment like in this proof of concept with Adidas, creating an internal creative function for their business. So moving a bit away from the old ad agency, traditional agency model, and trying to create a specialist team for them in-house. And we work with Adidas and another streaming service, Spotify, and that we have a small team of 5 people, and that's kind of what we do: strategy and and content.
Well, I'm turning over to Atish. Atish is another guy with a very unique style and flavor. We've actually connected via social media first, you know, and that's where a lot of golf relationships tend to start, if not on the course, in a random four ball that you've been paired with. Atish, you're a former GQ best dressed man. You come from a finance background, which sounds dull and boring, but your style is so flaming, and you've found a way to kind of bring that into golf as well. So talk to us a little bit about your style and how that ties into how you approach the game of golf as well.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I really, appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I think that's a good question in terms of the journey that it's taken. I think for me, what's been quite interesting, and I think our backgrounds are quite different. I grew up in two small gold mining towns, Springs on the east side of Joburg, and another town called Carltonville on the west side of Joburg. My dad worked for Anglo Gold his whole career, so we moved around, dependent on his work. But the beautiful thing about living in these gold mining towns is that they tend to have really nice golf courses and accessible golf courses. So for the last 5 years of my high school time, I lived on a mine village, the same as you'd see on Isidingo. Literally, it had a village club, it had tennis courts, it had facilities that the company provided for people that stayed there, including a mashie course.
Because this was usually in a remote part of
Absolutely, it's an hour and a half outside of Joburg, as an example, on the West Rand, and they had a mashie course there. And I was just playing with friends. We had picked up some old clubs from one of my friends' dad's garages, and that was actually my introduction into the game of golf. So grew up there. Then, like you said, a bit of a double life. Studied law at Wits, and that was my introduction into Joburg and living in the city. And left golf for a bit, but in varsity picked it up, and knew through my university journey I was always expressive, loved clothing, loved dressing up. Went through a lot of different phases of what I wore. For a long time it was just suits and dressing up as being a dapper guy, reading a lot of blogs and the like, and that was when the GQ stuff happened. But as I got older, I realized fashion is just truly, and I know it sounds quite cliche, an expression of who you are. It can be an expression of your mood on the day. It can be an expression of feeling confident for the meeting you're going to or the engagement you're going to. And I think then over time, I realized that actually it's not just clothes that I like. I just like nice things that are made well, things that tell a story. And so I think naturally my style has, sort of grown with that. And I don't know what else to expand on that, but I think that's what it is. I wouldn't be able to define my style to you. One day I'd wake up and feel comfortable putting on an outfit like this, and the next day I'd be seeing clients in a suit. So it sort of moves around, and I guess I'm a bit lucky that in my finance job I get to play golf with clients now and then. So that's a bit of a difference, and it really is a blessing to be able to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. It's just a coincidence that you happen to do some work for Adidas. It's one of my favorite brands. Yeah. This is not product placement. It's just something that I happen to find myself in more often than not. So talk to us a little bit about the creative role that you've got with Adidas right now. It's a very strong golfing brand, and your work may or may not tap into that segment. But tell us very briefly what the kind of creative work is that you do with Adidas right now.
Cool. So with Adidas South Africa, we obviously exist within an emerging market structure, in that we do a lot of localization of content, and our role as the creative lead agencies is to kind of look at with the brand where there are opportunities across every category. So just to make that simple, it's within Adidas exists Originals, which is the fashion side that we all love and what we've been close to for many years, and then obviously within their business is football and running, and so we work across their business on what we would call key brand campaigns, big moments where we're talking about key product releases, and unfortunately golf is not part of that yet. I think it's in a space of flux and transition at the moment, where eventually it will get there. So all my golf happens in my personal capacity. I don't get to
Outside
work
of
on
work,
any golf.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I think
that's
the
basically
conversation that we're having today is also indicative of the growth that golf is in globally right now.
Yeah.
Before I tap into the role that fashion is playing in golf now, in growing the game as well, Ashley, how did you start playing golf? When did you first think, okay, let me pick up this thing that's like a big metal spoon?
Yeah.
So I, when I was younger, I played cricket pretty competitively, and I'm sure like my parents thought that I was going to make it at some stage, and so did I. And so I played quite seriously cricket until I was about 16, 17, grade 11, and then realized that I was kind of like making the provincial team like sometimes, but it was never going to be like a career, and that's what I had envisioned for myself when I was younger. And so I then put my energy into like actually trying to be good at schoolwork and get into university. So cricket became like not a part of my life.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Gotta push.
Like realized that, oh shit, I actually have to work to get, you know, into this place called university.
Yeah.
And it was actually then that I was introduced to golf, because I had more time, and all of a sudden I wasn't doing anything on a Saturday. And my brother was doing lessons as the school started a golf team, and this was at the River Club, which you guys all know, the iconic River Club. We all miss it so much. I see it every day when I'm at the Adidas office, because it's in Black River Park.
The remnants of it.
Yeah,
I mean, even I've been there. It's iconic in Cape Town.
It's so iconic. It was, and similarly, you know, like it had this Mashi course and a range, which is awesome. And actually, my brother was really good when he was younger, and my dad said, you know, let's go, come with me. I'm gonna go pick him up, and being into sport, I picked up, and I was like, this is easy, like I can definitely do this. Probably like missed the ball
that time and time again,
you know, but then the first like flush shot, I'll never forget it, because it was with a 9-iron, and like a 9-iron is still my favorite like yardage and club. And it was just this feeling of euphoria. Like I can only describe it as like, you know, hitting a really good cover drive, or like just a feeling of ultimate happiness.
Immediate dopamine hit.
It's a complete moment.
Yeah,
and it's every avid golfer can relate to this, you know, because I also remember my first time. I remember us talking about our first time. And mine was with a 5-iron on the field in Mitchell's Plain. And we know a 5-iron is one of the longer irons and it goes far. But I didn't know that as a 13-year-old that just messing about. And I hit that ball so far, he went on someone's roof and I ended up running into it. I didn't know what I broke.
That's
but that was my first flush shot, you know. And as it happens, cricketers tend to be
great golfers.
Great golfers. You know, A.B. de Villiers, Vernon Philander, J.P. Dwermany, I've seen them play, and they are phenomenal golfers. And I think if they could choose, they'd play more golf than cricket.
It's more enjoyable. And I mean, we were just saying off camera now, like you come into, I think in South Africa we play a lot of sport of bottom hand dominance, hockey, cricket, and you come to golf and you think you should be like really so good, but like the first thing when I went for a lesson, the pro was like, your bottom hand needs to chill. Like you need to take it easy with that bottom hand. Like
it's doing too much.
It's doing way too much. It's not that hard.
I get you.
Use your left arm, and it's such a natural progression to go from hockey or cricket to golf. And so I also then subsequently went to university and played more football, because I always kind of played football, and my dad was a really good footballer, and then I played football because you have less time. And so I didn't play golf then for 10 years, from 2010 until about, actually it's 12 years, 2022 is when I started again, 2021, 22. And so picked the sport up again at the end of 2021.
And it's like they say, it just bites again.
It bites again, and then I was like, hard. And it was actually a friend of mine who was like, we just connected like we are through sneakers, and he was like, hey man, like you should come and play golf with us. And I was like, it's actually funny because like I used to play golf, and then I wouldn't stop messaging him like,
let's jam.
When are we playing golf? And then they would just laugh at me because they're like, you have a problem. Like you have literally become a problem in our friend group.
I think golfers are probably the more sociable people that you'll find
Absolutely.
in society. I mean, we've been communicating mostly via social media. It's the first time that you and I are meeting face to face, for example, you know, but yet it feels like we're old friends, and I think that's one of the beautiful parts about this amazing game. Now, back to the topic that we've come here to discuss today, which is the fashion of golf, you know, where it's at, and you know, the role it plays within the sport right now. And I think I want to touch on maybe the tradition of golf, you know, pleated pants, button-up shirt, collared shirt, the formal shoes, you know, you need to have
the belt.
this particular look with the belt as well. Where do you think that might have come from, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I think that we could have a whole podcast on in terms of how that's come through. But and I think again we were, you know, sort of touching on it before we started this formally. But historically in South Africa, golf has been a very elitist sport. You know, that could be in terms of, you know, access to the sport. It could mean, you know, historically the actual segregation we had within the country, and you know that still exists now. And I think we'll get into that. But I think it had always been quite a rigid culture within the game. We still see evidence of it in all the clubs we play in now. The signs are still up there, make sure you look like this. And you know, I think it was a big part of around COVID when I started playing again. I also left the game for a few years. In COVID, when I picked up a club again, it was one of the first things we could do socially with our friends. You know, with the restrictions got eased up a bit. They said, go, you can be outside, you can be walking. And so I thought, you know, this is a great thing to get out of the house and working from home and being stuck inside. And I was actually playing with two of my friends who have now ended up being my business partners in this brand called Members Only. And I think it's a good time to speak up and just touch on it because it speaks to, you know, the rigidity of how we are expected to dress at golf clubs. So we spoke to each other, and you know, through that interaction, I think they were being quizzed on their attire. Are these pants appropriate? Are these shoes appropriate? And then we had a conversation with each other to say, you know, it actually shouldn't matter. Certainly, you know, there's certain realms you should play in and certain parameters that you should design in, but golf should, and golf fashion should be something that you can express yourself in. I think for us, a big problem about golf fashion was we found that in our closets, we had one stack of golf clothing, and it came out once a week or once a month. Whenever you played, you wore that t-shirt or those pants. And so you were spending all this money on stuff that you weren't getting utility out of.
And the stuff's expensive.
And the stuff is expensive. So what we said we'll do is, and my partners, Nish and Dips, they own a material store in Fordsburg, a multi-generational material store, unbelievable spot. And they said, well, we've got the material, you have some ideas, like, you know, let's go for it. Let's make stuff we want to wear on the golf course, but importantly, stuff that we can wear any other day of the week. And so that's how Members Only has started. And yeah, I think I'll let you take the rest of the question in terms of, you know, that rigidity. But it's so nice to see that there's a generation of players that are coming through that care less about the rigidity and more about actually being out there with their peers, having a good time and playing golf.
Ash, do you think that maybe that rigidity and that prescribed look that we need to conform to, or traditionally conform to access the sport, might be, you know, one of the barriers that make people think, I'm not going to go because I need to pay 1,200 rand for the pants that I'm going to wear 3 times a year, you know? Do you think that contributes to some extent to people deciding to not try the sport?
I think so. It's very daunting coming into the sport as someone who, you know, has... I think we have to be realistic about the context within which we live, and sport has always in South Africa like represented this like democratic space and like idea for like hope and to progress forward. And you don't need a lot to play sport in this country, you know, like football, you can play barefoot, you can play with sneakers. And I think golf, in order to take it to the next level that we all want to see, is like we really need to break those barriers down. And it's, you know, like sometimes we were saying it's just preconceived like notions that people have had embedded into them, and it doesn't, like often if you presented with a question, but why is this collared top not allowed? It has a collar. Most of the time people
don't have an actual answer.
They don't have an answer, but it's just because they've been told. And I think
it's been like that for so long.
Yeah, but it also takes people like Atish's, you know, like Members Only is like a vehicle and a platform through which to tell that story. That you know, this is okay. Like, we're really good golfers. You know, I'm a respectable person. I love the game as much as you, and I just dress in a certain way. You know, I think there are ways that you can like pay homage to the game without wearing pleated pants.
Absolutely.
Like, I love pleated pants. That's what I wear, and I love FootJoy shoes.
Part of your aesthetic.
But also like I love what they do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And like golf is now in an interesting space where I think, you know, you can almost liken it to where like sneaker culture was in the early 2000s.
Absolutely.
Right? It's such like an uncharted, brands are getting involved. They're trying to collaborate with, you know, like big brands collaborating with celebrities, big brands collaborating with independent brands.
Yep.
So in a few years, like you see, you know, an Adidas or Puma will look at members only and like, that's actually a channel through which we can open up the game.
And I'm so glad you bring that up, you know. Before I latch onto that point, because I've also done some critical thinking about the attire, you know. Why are we prescribed to wear these things? And I looked at it from a very practical perspective. You know, golf was predominantly an exclusive sport.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were either rich and white and you could afford to play. And if you just look at the math of a crew neck, a plain crew neck t-shirt versus a plain collared t-shirt, there's a massive price difference,
right,
whether it's branded or unbranded. So that automatically tells me perhaps it was a construct to keep people out of the sport.
Possible.
For sure.
So that, some people might think I'm clutching, but I think it's got some plausibility in that thinking. And now all of a sudden, if you change that, people might start trickling in. And I think challenging that narrative is very important, and in the manner in which it's being done through members only, that we'll get into a bit later, is that collaboration that you spoke of just now. And the different personalities getting into the sport is growing phenomenally. I mean, DJ Khalid is probably the last person I thought that would be the biggest hype man for the sport, you know. Eastside Golf, that started a brand to advocate for inclusivity and diversity of the sport. Now they are Jordan collab. I mean, I've seen they post people in China that were non-golfers wearing Eastside Golf, making posts about it. It's an off-course lifestyle brand as well. And we see this in cricket, we see it in soccer, we see it in rugby. Only now the status quo is changing within golf, you know, after decades. And I think this shift is necessary to grow the game. And if I look at South Africa, we've got it's maybe big in number if you look at the commerce side of things, but in terms of the population, we're less than 1% of the country that's golfing. You know? And there's a lot of career opportunities that can be discovered if people just know a little bit more about the sport. And if you can make it more accessible through clothing, for people that can relate to. I mean, if you look at Mitchell's Plain, which is the equivalent of Eldorado in Johannesburg, you know, we've got a Jordan culture within that community.
Massive.
So now, if you give them Jordan golf shoes that looks cool, that they can wear off course as well, it introduces them to the game through something that they can connect with.
And John, also there's the other side of that, right? In terms of, you know, something that appeals to them to come into the game. But if we can break down those barriers about what you should look like at the golf course, you know, and we can send out that message to say, come in the clothes that you have, just come try it. Be on, you know, come to the driving range at the club, or you know, wear your Nike running shoes. But you don't have to have shoes with spikes. You're just starting, you know, and come to the course. And I think that will make people feel a little bit more welcomed.
100%.
And I think a big part of it also around, you know, the rigidity of what we wear is people still associate the way you look and the way you dress with the way they think you're going to behave. So just because I'm in baggy pants, flat peak cap, or bucket hat, you know, and sneakers that are golf shoes, you know, it doesn't mean that I'm going to walk on your line, that I'm going to tee off when you won the last hole, that I'm going to speak on your backswing, you know. The etiquette of golf is still inside me. Those things are not going to change. And it doesn't matter who I'm playing with. That is who I am as a golfer. And so I think, you know, that will change over time, hopefully.
100%. That point, I think we discussed a little bit before we started recording, that just because this is expectation or this prescribed attire to access the golf course, it prohibits me from telling Ash, you know, just come with me and try something, because now, let's say I do that. Actually comes just as he is right now. I'm in my golf attire. I say, come, just let's hit a few balls in the practice range. Someone stops him.
Oh.
It's the first time he's coming.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir, you can't be here. Where's your golf
Yes.
t-shirt? What impression does it create for him that I'm trying to introduce to the sport?
Yeah.
Do you understand?
And he's gonna speak about that experience to 10 of his friends, and they'll never be.
And what's the chances of him wanting to come back? You know,
Absolutely.
because he had a negative experience on something so rudimentary.
Yeah.
And also on that, I actually saw this the other day on social media. This is on the Golf Monthly Instagram page, and this is a quote from Colin Morikawa, one of my best golfers right now. And he says, the question is how to get more people into golf. This is his response.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is to show them it doesn't have to be 10 hours long. It doesn't have to be a long day. And you don't have to put on pleated pants, a button-up and collared shirt. Some of the best times I've had is being in a t-shirt and shorts and sneakers, having a good time with my friends.
There you go.
This is from one of the top golfers in the world.
That's it.
And I think that sends the right signal out to the golf industry.
Absolutely.
To the policymakers, you know, and to the owners of country clubs and munis even,
Yeah.
to make the golf a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think, you know, it's a big thing of the sustainability of their businesses will rely on them changing their perceptions. Because the younger golfer doesn't want to be that rigid golfer. And if you're going to block him out of your club, he's just simply not going to play there. So I think over time they will be forced to change, you know. The thing is, when was it, like 3 years ago, and I forget, was it Rory McIlroy that wore Adidas hoodie at the tournament?
Yeah.
And it was a huge story. It was all the headlines, front page of Golf Digest, you know, everyone was talking about it. But the thing is, if he's doing that at the top level, and it's being shown around the world on TV, and I see that on a Saturday, and I go to the course on a Sunday morning in my hoodie, and someone tells me something, you know, there's that disconnect there.
Yeah.
Very recently, I was at a golf club in Cape Town. I went in Adidas tracksuit pants. I had my golf shoes on. I had this very t-shirt on.
The ones with the three stripes down
Yes,
the
with
side.
the three stripes down the side, you know. And I was prohibited from playing my round. I was told that you are not allowed to access the course because you're not wearing the proper pants.
Right.
And I was trying to really understand, is this still happening today? Because I've played in that same pants at many other golf courses, and even at some private country club courses, you know, and it was never an issue because I'm suitably attired, I'm comfortable. So I didn't quite see the practical need for them to actually prohibit me from playing.
I was playing a late afternoon Thursday, chilled 9 holes with a friend, and it was getting dark. We were rushing to finish before the sun went down, and the marshal made a point to drive from a parallel hole to come to me and check my pants to make sure they were appropriate. There was no one else on the course. You know, it's not a full Saturday members day where, you know, he needs to be under any pressure. And it makes you wonder, you know, if it wasn't me that had been playing for a long time, someone that was just starting, like you say, how would he feel post that?
So, and I get the marshals, they are enforcing the rules.
Sure.
You know, so we need to challenge the policymakers. So they need to start thinking laterally, you know. Do you want to keep the game small and closed and the way it used to be, or do you want to grow the game? You know, certainly more members is more business at the same time. So I find that very disturbing that it still happens today. I mean, this was fairly recently that this happened to me. So yeah, I hope, and I've seen a positive shift in this regard with most clubs. Like I said, I've played in it at other courses. So hopefully it continues in that vein.
But do you guys struggle with this thing? We're obviously on social media a lot, but you know, and a lot of the content we get fed is from the US mostly, I'd say. You know, your Zaya Golf, all of those sort of accounts, which we all love. But do you notice, like, when golfers overseas create this content, at a lot of their muni courses, they are in a normal t-shirt. Like, when I say a normal t-shirt, like the t-shirt you go to gym in, gym shorts and trainers, and there's no issue there. And I think to myself, why hasn't that even started to happen here? I think we're lagging in terms of adopting, you know, a more casual style of playing.
I think it's also in my experience in coming back to the game, and going to Rondebosch, I was a bit taken aback at how little young people there were at the course, and it's something I always discuss with my friends. I think if there are more young people there, and you know the old guard kind of realize like, oh, this is the way that they do.
Yes.
But you know, these kids are really good. Like they're ballers. Like they're playing off like whatever
Yeah.
6-7 handicap.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden, it becomes fine.
Yes.
Like, oh, you have to let him do it. And I think that's kind of the culture and energy that exists in the US. You know, especially at these. You know, you're not talking about like Whistling Straits or like
Yeah.
Page Black or like these proper like country clubs. But you're talking about your munis and your good golf
Yeah.
courses. For me, the main thing is like, how do we get young people into the game, and like the the work that you do with the Mitchells Plain Golf Club, like that is it's so cool to me. Like that is, I would honestly to be able to do that once a month with kids, like I would give up my Saturday comp, because I feel
Yeah.
that's how we get people.
That's how the game grows.
It's literally in South Africa we have an access issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have we overcomplicate a lot of things, and we speak about it in our work with marketing all the time. It's
Yeah.
like people like access to data. You know, it's expensive. Like we have access issues here, and I think the first point is like golf clubs need to look at like how do we make it cheaper.
Yeah.
You know, we have this like high net worth like elite. 30%. How do we help them subsidize getting young people
Yeah.
of color into the
Absolutely.
game? That's for me like
Yeah,
a big
and that's a real problem that they are facing with right now, because a lot of their members are really, really old, and you know they're dying or becoming
And that's my
physically
thing.
unable to
Yeah.
play. And
Yeah.
the people that they need to turn to for members are us and the generation that's coming behind us.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's
So
not
they,
the tourists. We can't
No.
rely on tourists.
The
Like
whole
I don't
time.
buy the. No, we get lots of tourists. Stop lying. We don't get lots
Yeah.
of tourists. We get them in the seasonal, but we need to appeal to young people. You know?
now
Like
just think
that's-
about this, right? We really have this access problem getting young, underprivileged kids into the sport.
Yes.
And even kids from more affluent backgrounds.
Yeah.
Now, imagine you put this requirement on us at Mitchells Plain to say, okay, they also need to have this clothes. So now we've got an access problem from a transport perspective.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
to get in the clothes, you know?
And we haven't even started on clubs yet.
You understand?
Yeah.
We haven't even got into the golf course
Yes,
yet.
yes.
So why do we want to put more barriers to entry in place instead of opening it up? And it's a win-win for everyone. you know?
Absolutely.
There's so many opportunities within this space. If people collaborate, they have an open-minded approach, and they start identifying where those collaborative opportunities
Yeah.
are. Now, coming to members only, and Ash, you will have some insights in terms of brand collabs. You know, South Africa is no stranger to the international scene when it comes to fashion designers
Absolutely.
and apparel. You know, we have the skills, we have the intellect, the intelligence, and the resources to create quality products that can shine on the global stage. And what I'd like to see is a brand like Members Only collaborating with a big brand here,
Yeah.
and create that crossover collaboration of street culture, lifestyle
Absolutely.
within the golf space. How near or far? And I'm posing the question to both of you. So maybe you, as being the
Yeah.
incumbent smaller brand looking to collaborate, and you working with a big brand, where are we in that space? Are we closer to it than we were? Or
My
is it still
instinct
somewhere-
says we're probably quite far away still, just in terms of the scale and perhaps the journey the independent golf brands still have to walk in South Africa. You know, I think maybe I should go first, and then I think from an expert. Yeah, no. I mean, I think certainly that is the dream. That's the goal. At some point, we would love to have a collaboration like that. I think it would be a lovely endorsement for what we're trying to do, trying to create. But, having said that also, I think we're in no rush to get to that point. Definitely a goal on the vision board, but in no rush. There's a long journey that we have to walk before we get there. When we truly, truly believe that, from just growing in terms of having buyers that are not only golf players, and just identifying with the brand and the story the brand is trying to tell. I think we really want to create that organically through time. And I think, with the first collection that we released was our bucket hats, which sold out, which was really nice to see. And our bucket hats have a bit of a unique feature on the side where you can put in teas or things to smoke or something to that effect. And you know, it was a good endorsement in terms of what we were trying to do, and it was good in terms of exploring if there was something with the brand. But going forward, I think we want to tell more stories. So going into the summer months, you know, we're conceptualizing an actual collection that tells a story, and not necessarily the typical merchandise you would see in different colorways. And so I think these, you know, are different things that we can work on in terms of walking that journey. But certainly, I don't think we're there yet, but I think we could get there.
I love that approach that you're taking, that you say there's no rush.
Yeah.
It's an organic process, and you're staying true to the ethos of what the members only brand is, you know. So I love that. Ash, I'm keen to hear where you think we are in that space.
So I think first on what Atish is saying, like what's important for me is always like you can build the community that you guys are around the sport and style crossover. Like that's really impressive for a brand. You know? Those are things that brands look at as attractive. Like how do we, you know, like how do we leverage or partner with a brand that has what we can't get, you know, as a multinational corporation. And I think in terms of the question around like where we are, I also agree that we're quite far away. But at the same time, you know, we've had like two in with Adidas, like there's been two really big global collaborations with African designers. So with Tebe Magugu and Rich Mmusi. And like we were talking about like, you know, this idea of Africa to the world, you know, we speak about it all the time, music, sport, culture, and we knew it was bubbling under, and then it kind of happened. And now it's like, you know, we get questions like, who's the next one? Like, who should I be looking out for? And so it's this double-edged sort of, I feel we are far, but at the same time,
things can happen so quickly,
right?
And we blessed.
Bogey Boys happen now out of nowhere.
Macklemore, and it was
Adidas,
of
like,
course.
And I think I posed the question also because I think South Africa in the global golf fraternity has a meaningful presence already in terms of the quality of our golfers. You know, we've got some of the best golfers in the world playing, on the PGA Tour and on Live Golf. So I think that we've got assets that we can leverage at the same time within those personalities. You spoke about Rory and his hoodie. I also recall Eric van Rooyen. Yes, his joggers. You know, that also
he gets a lot of
gets a lot of heat on that.
And he was one of the first. I think that incident happened before Rory with the hoodie, if I'm not mistaken.
And another South African, Dylan Fratelli, with his arm sleeves, the UV sleeves, and he also gets roasted for that.
So I think that there's a lot of existing opportunities for local brands to collaborate with. There needs to be continuous dialogue. They need to be open to working with the smaller brands and not just go to the mainstream brands, you know, because that also opens their brand up to a new audience.
Absolutely.
You know, so I'm excited about where those things are leading to in the near future.
I think just to add to this topic, for us, you know, it's in the name. When we conceptualized the name Members Only, I think we wanted people that were involved with our brand to feel like they were part of something culturally. And I think a big part of what we need to do and what we're planning on doing is around events. Because when you throw those events, even if I'm just hosting 4 balls, but I've curated the people that are playing within those 4 balls, different mix of people, like-minded people. And hey, it may potentially be that all of the people, you know, dress in a more progressive way in terms of when they play golf. That also helps because those people are then seen, you know, and so we are thinking about stuff like that as well.
I've also looked at this East Side Golf and the story. Their story has grown overnight. You know, they've made massive waves, and the clay collection of the shoe is such a unique story that I've heard. You know, the path that he walked into the course and it actually be in the clay. So I think that kind of resonates a bit about what you spoke about earlier, that your clothing is storytelling. So I'm excited about some of the new pieces that come out in that summer range. Is there something that you can allude to a little bit, give us a bit of a sneak peek?
Yeah, sure. So I think we're really looking at things that are technically, you know, sound in terms of the way that they're made. You touched on it earlier around, you know, what we can do in South Africa. I think a lot of people forget what a massive CMT hub South Africa used to be. And we know in the heyday how many jobs textiles created in the Western Cape, as an example.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you know the expertise is here, you know the factories are here. So for us, we source our materials locally, we manufacture them locally. So that's part of the story. And I think, you know, so we'll always, and definitely going to the summer collection, there will be something that you know, speaks to that. But I don't want to give away too much just yet. One thing I'll also add, and you also spoke about it, is despite the size of South Africa in the global sphere, our golfers have been super, super successful. I think South African golfers have won the 4th amount of majors combined. That's insane, you know, if you think about it. And so certainly we have a role to play in that. Yeah, and I think, you know, and everything should have that streak of South African pride in it.
Yeah, so I'm excited about the role that fashion is playing. I'm the last person to talk about fashion, you know, and you mentioned earlier that you also find yourself in suits most of the time because of work, and I was in a similar space. And now I find myself looking at this more often, and I enjoy it, you know.
Yeah.
And I've got, you know, if I think back to when I was working in corporate, I had to plan whether or not I'm going to wear jeans that day because I don't know if I'm going to go to the course or if I get the gap, you know. So it's important that you've got an accepted environment where what you are wearing you can go to the course, you know. It satisfies a recreational need for the individual, and it's business for the club.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think that's just hitting me right now, that thought, you know. How many times have I had to tell people, I can't wear, I've got the jeans on. I mean, something as simple as that.
Or I can't come to where you are, I have to go and change.
Yes.
That's what my problem is.
That's insane.
Like, I feel that when I'm done playing golf, I'm like embarrassed to meet my girlfriend at like our favorite coffee shop because people are going to judge me.
Not suit that aesthetic.
It's like the same when I cycle. I can't go with my tights into the coffee shop because I know it's like not the right environment. So that's why I love members only, and I love all of these brands because I can wear that on the course and I can feel fine to go.
Absolutely.
You shouldn't have to like worry or keep like a separate locker in the club. I know people do that. Like I know my friends do it, and they immediately change like into their Air Maxes and, you know, like a nice shorts, and I'm like, why didn't you play in that, you know?
Yeah, and talking about sneakers, you both come from a sneaker culture. I mean, you started at Shelf Life, and I don't know anything about sneakers. I'm not a collector by any stretch of the imagination, but what do you think are the forerunners right now within the mainstream brands, your Nike, Puma, Adidas, that are
can you be objective? Yeah, I don't know if you can be objective.
I've said to Jihad, I can fortunately say whatever.
Okay. Because you're independent.
Yeah, but obviously, like Jordan brand is doing amazing stuff. Like I look at it and I wear Foot Choice, so luckily I don't need to buy it.
But they're killing it also now.
You
know, FootJoy is unapologetic about what a quality golf shoe should look like, and they don't stray away from that. And I love that about them.
The leather,
and then you have Jordan going crazy on the other side. The segue of basketball and golf and street culture and, you know, hip hop and all of that stuff. Yeah, I think Jordan definitely, you know, trailblazing.
So, like I said, I was never a sneaker person. I was very understated, and even still today, you know. And I was never Jordan or Air Max crazy, but now because of the golf shoes that Nike is making in the Air Maxes, I'm starting to like Air Maxes. So now because of golf, I'm drawn into a different avenue.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I never even thought of it like that.
I also never thought of that.
But it can actually do a job. And I've also seen people putting spikes on their...
Yes, I bought a pair of those from Amazon. It's basically just a box of spikes with the screws, and they have a tool, and you can put it on any shoe that you want.
That's crazy.
But then there's also the reverse, where there's limited Jordans that have come out, and people have been buying them and chopping the spikes off and wearing them out on the streets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because you can't get the actual, you know, Jordan that comes out. So.
Yeah, I think they are realizing more now than a couple of years ago that there's a lot of growth opportunity on the commercial side in golf as a sport. It's been closed for so long that people were close to the opportunities, and now we've got your DJ Khaleds and Tom Hollands playing golf, and people are now, oh, okay, Spider-Man's playing golf, I can play golf too, you know, and we've got Black Spider-Man too, so now we've got kids that look like us that now also think, okay, my superhero is playing, so I also want to get into it.
Yeah, it's so nice to see that, eh?
You need that perception that golf is cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we feel like that, we really
feel like it's cool.
I think it's the coolest thing ever. But, you know, we need to change the perception out there to keep growing the game for sure.
Young people, certainly, the majority of them don't think that golf is cool. They think it's boring, it's an old man sport.
They also think it's easy for some reason.
They do. Do they pedal?
Yes. That ball is standing still, I'll hit it, no problem.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we see the Steph Curry's, I mean, he's doing amazing work in golf. To think that he's an NBA icon, you know, one of the greatest ever to play the game, still playing, and he's doing so much for golf. And he's opening up to his own organization, his NPO, the sport to underprivileged communities, you know, and it shows just how much opportunities. If people of that caliber that have that level of influence are starting to realize the urgency within this. I mean, when do we see black winners on tour? Apart from Tony Finau, Harold Varner, that's now playing, he's starting to play good golf again. I mean,
it's far between.
And the way that we can start changing that is by getting them in at a young age and making it more appealing, making it cool. And when cool people are, I don't think kids think I'm cool, you know, so they need to see the Tom Hollands and the Steph Currys do these things to get them interested, and then have the swaggy attire that makes it acceptable for them to be there too. So I hope that the shift happens far sooner. I know I've got my 8-year-old playing golf. I wish I got him.
He's so good. Like, I wish I played him. I look at him and I'm like, damn, he's flashing it like he just made a par on the hole that I bogey all the time. I'm like,
he's going to be amazing.
He's going to be so good, bro.
We've got this one hole at Rondebosch, and in fact, his favorite cap is that yellow members only cap. He loves it.
That makes me
very happy. He misplaced it for a while, and he was upset that we couldn't find it, but he's got it now. He loves that cap. And the par 3, the 6th hole at Rondebosch, we got members at Rondebosch. And I've realized the other day that he parred that hole and birdied that hole more than I did for all the years that I've played.
It's a lovely thing. Reminds me of when Tiger said that his son outdrove him for the first time. He was so bleak. But it's cool, man. And I think you see, like, it's so weird because we feel younger than we are. But like, all of our friends are having babies now. They've been married for a while, you know, they're starting families, their kids are starting to go to school, those sort of things. And if we can make the game more accessible, you know, we bring younger people in just as you are doing, and that can only be good for the game.
So I'm stoked. I don't know if there's any more comments. Oh yes, I've seen that DJ Khalid is also collaborating with the Ryder Cup. I know it's got nothing to do with
when did that get announced? I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, recently.
Okay.
So he's aligning with the Ryder Cup, which is a massive move, I think.
Yeah, that's a big statement because it's a very like traditional
and it's
thing that no one's allowed to touch.
And two cultures. I mean, the culture that DJ Khaled represents.
I picked it up today, so that was interesting to see as a development, and I'm so stoked. And you know what else is present in the sport signals is that anyone can play.
It
doesn't matter your age, your size, your color. And you just need to give it a go.
And that's what people need to realize. I'm sure all of us have played with those balies that, like, they know their game, they know their swing. They line up on the tee box, 80 meters left. You're like, what is going on? But that bali knows he's going to hit a cut 200 meters and he's just going to land in the middle of the fairway every single time. But that's the beauty of golf.
There's no one way to do it.
That's it.
Atish, before you wrap, I don't think there's any last points that either of you want to raise, but you can think about that. Tell people about where they can find members only, where they can purchase, and what they can expect before the end of this year. Absolutely.
So I think from our side at members only, we're really putting out some exciting stuff to the end of the year. A big summer collection coming out in spring. And for us, the beauty of where we are in the brand right now is we touch everything that we sell. What I mean by that is, you know, we're packing the stuff ourselves.
That's the best.
And we're falling in love with the process of building a brand. It has not been easy at all. Similar to a journey with golf, you think, I'm going to start a brand, it's going to be easy, but you run into manufacturing issues, you run into distribution issues, you run into payment issues, cash flow situations. So we're learning as we go, and I think we are gaining some momentum. You can DM us on Instagram. It's probably the easiest way to order at the moment. We are building a site that will be a lot easier to purchase off of, and I think that will be launched in line with the collection in September. But more so, I think look out for some exciting events from us, you know, where we really want to showcase what the brand represents. We want to bring people together, connect the dots, and you know, sort of just really create this idea around members only and feeling part of something.
Cool.
So that's where we are.
I'm flying up for the event.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the golf in Joburg is amazing. Yeah.
Actually, we didn't touch on Golf Index.
Yeah.
Tell us what I myself don't even know exactly what it's about.
Yeah.
We didn't get into it too much. Tell us what it's
That's
about.
okay. Yeah, it's still like a new, like it kind of existed as like a mood board. Like I just started posting,
Sick.
you know, like you said, like a vision board. I was just always been attracted to like golf style from then. And because I love FootJoy and like pleated pants, I was like, I'm just going to start this mood board and see where it goes. And we had such like a good reception on it, and of course like my work, a lot of what we do is making films, you know, for brands, and so we have like access to such amazing equipment, and you know, myself like being like directing films, it's so interesting to think like how can I make golf, you know, look like really interesting for people and cool and you know, like edgy. And so that's kind of Golf Index will exist as this like digital journal of like the intersection of style and golf, and it'll probably happen through content pieces and yeah, I don't know when, because it's like the same like we were talking about trying to find time in between what you actually do, but I'm excited to use it as a platform to open it up to people like us who have an appreciation for style and
you know, that's literally how Melbourne Golf started. It was a very similar story. I mean, you know, Steve Melbourne was involved in a lot of like hip hop culture, fashion outside. He was friends with, you know, that entire community and still is very connected in that community. And when he started his brand, I remember he just posted a white golf glove. Then it was just another, you know, really nice golf picture. People were asking questions, you know, what's happening? And now look at Melbourne Golf. It's massive. I think, you know, it really is a brand that has been at the forefront of what we are trying to do.
right.
In terms of just, you know, making golf cool again. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
really,
like
really
we did one piece which was a bit of a course overview of Rondebosch, and like showed it to the golf director, and she was like, wow, this looks like an ad, like you should do this for brands. And I said like, kind of my purpose with it is the opposite, because we like every day we work with brands, and so I almost want, so now I'm thinking about how do I make it more like democratized content, more of what we see on Instagram. And it's like always this battle for time that we have. Everyone has it, you know, like we try to find time to do it, and I need to get it off the ground. But I'm also in the same vein, like I'm not in a rush, because I know golf is in this place where it's still growing, and we're discovering what will be like the new move forward. I'm just happy to see more young people involved in golf, you know.
And on that point, I think apart from, or in addition to the amazing and rich conversation that we had about golf culture and fashion right now, I think the fact that the three of us people who look and sound like us talking about golf here today is such a special moment.
Absolutely.
It's
Thank you.
Thanks for connecting us.
I appreciate your time being here. I respect the work that you respectively do within the space to help grow the game, make it more inclusive as well. And I encourage all of the other stakeholders within allied industries to turn to people such as you as well to figure out how we can plug into one another's ecosystems
Absolutely.
to grow the game, make it more inclusive, make it more global, and bring the rest of the world to African golf.
Yes.
Because I think that is, we've got so much potential, even beyond South Africa,
Kenya,
and Zimbabwe.
We really discount the fact that we can play golf 12 months of the year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the world, it's so cheap for them to come here right now because of this exchange.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the more we can show them what we're doing differently, encourage them to visit, engage with communities, it's part of their experience as well culturally. I wish you both well on your journeys.
Thank you so much.
Playing golf with you both. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
I thank you for your time. And
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, that was the 6th episode of Far From Par, talking about fashion. One of the last things that I thought I would ever be talking about. But because it's golf related, of course, I'll touch on it. I want to send a massive shout out to Gerard and Brett from the T Cape Town for the amazing studio location. If you ever need a TrackMan simulation set up, please hit them up. The T Cape Town on Instagram. They've got a dude. I think I'm staying here tonight.
Yeah.
I'll let my wife know.
Yeah.
They've got world-class equipment. They specialize in these setups, and we'll post details at the end of the show. Peace.